Yeah, 7.12 tender for asphalt. I'm glad that the tender did go out, and I guess to Mr. Girardi, when will the asphalt basically be received for the city, and when are these potholes are going to be worked at, I guess?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Bruning, well, certainly we're working at the potholes right now. We're running our recycler for that. But yes, now that the contract is open, we will communicate with Avery's. They are the successful one, and asking them to, as soon as they can get their plant running, we would certainly accept asphalt. It's usually, we usually don't get asphalt until about the end, pretty well the end of April, first part of May. But we'll wait and see if the weather turns around. Perhaps they'll get the plant up running earlier. So as soon as they make it, we'll receive it. We'll start putting it down.
Thank you.
Anybody else in 712, Councillor Gardy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Girardi. Just, I'm curious, who is providing the asphalt for this last construction season?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardy, it all depends on what project. I mean, for our projects, for the city, things that we do from Public Works, that would be just patching and that would be, you know, last year, I'm not quite sure who the contractor was last year, but it'll be certainly one of the local ones. It might have been Pioneer, but I'm not sure.
Perfect.
But for the larger projects, it could come from whoever they decide that they choose to go to.
Understood. And thanks for that bit of sort of clarification. My comment is this, is that I'm hearing from a lot of people, as others are, about the conditions of the roads. We all know about the conditions of the road, and most people appreciate why they're in tough shape. One thing that I am hearing, and I don't know if there's any credence to it, is that the asphalt doesn't seem to sustain itself to the degree that it used to. I'll leave that for people who are better than I to assess those things to think about, but it's just something that I'm hearing often. I think a couple of my colleagues are as well, and I'm just putting it out there for your consideration. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, well, I think we have to be careful to not suggest that that's a result of last year's asphalt contract, because, you know, engineering can speak to this, Public Works can speak to this, but there is a process through which they check the quality of the asphalt as it's being kind of applied. One of the things that is affecting our roads dramatically is the thaws and the wet season, and the melts and the thaws and the freezes. And it's a real problem when we go into winter with a really wet road base. And I think we've done that now for a couple of years, and we've had a lot of freezes and thaws and freezes and thaws, and that doesn't help anybody. So I just, you know, I think we got to be careful not to suggest that last year's road contract has anything to do with the state of our roads now. I don't think there's a correlation there, notwithstanding that people might be of the position. Sorry, Mr. CEO, what are you pointing at?
Girardi has something.
Larry, you wanted to offer something?
Yeah, certainly. Through you, Mr. Mayor, you're absolutely correct. The material that we use, every material is made same. It's tested, it's evaluated, so we know what material we're getting from project to project. It's just there's different suppliers, but our specific supplier for our use happens to, you know, we choose and pick that one. But when there's a large project throughout the city, of course, whoever the successful construction company doing the work will pull the asphalt from wherever they see fit. But certainly all the asphalts are tested, so you're correct in that.
Okay, so I have Councillor Hollingsworth and Councillor Miro on the same matter.
Yes, your Mayor.
Okay.
Through you, Mayor, to Mr. Don Elliott. Don, we can't let you off the hook so soon. I know that you have always been a very good person in trying to improve our roads. You have always raised the flag and been definitely a good support in our road maintenance. For the viewers at home, I think this may help. We do see that there's potholes, and we know that there's a number of streets that are on your list that will be resurfaced this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, people, my constituents in Ward 1 have been concerned about Black Road, Trunk Road, and so forth. Can you just refresh your memories if those roads are being resurfaced this year?
Mr. Mayor to Councilor Hollingsworth, Black Road between South Market and Black is the candidate for the connecting link funding. That application went in November. We still await the province whether they're going to announce or not. But those are, if we get that funding, it's 90% of the funding. So we don't do resurfacing on connecting links without MTO's assistance, because for every dime we spend, they spend 90 cents. So we wait to match with their schedule. But Trunk Road is the next one on that connecting link list.
Okay, so I'm assuming that they'll still fill in the potholes as a temporary solution, even though we may be, hypothetically, we may be successful.
Mr. Mayor to Councilor Hollingsworth, yes, the maintenance, everything with respect to the road except capital construction is the city's responsibility. So the good offices of Public Works will have to be relied on for pothole filling.
Okay, and my last question to you, usually you do a very good job in this, but remind the viewers at home, the list of the roads that are hoping to be tackled for resurfacing will be published or is currently published on our website?
Mr. Mayor to Councilor Hollingsworth, no, we're putting the resurfacing program together as we speak. We have probably $8 million worth of resurfacing candidates, and our budget is in the pre-approved budget is in the realm of 3.5 thereabouts. So you will be seeing a report at probably the next meeting, if not the meeting after, with a recommended program.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. That's very helpful. And yes, potholes continue to be a real situation. But my last final question through you, Mayor, to Mr. Girardi. I know that Mr. Girardi, you and your staff do an excellent job in keeping up to date on the latest trends, on the latest advancements. Is there anything else that we can do besides asphalts? Is there any new technology? Is there any new science that you've heard about that we should be considering in the future to help with these potholes? Or is it just plain down to the right asphalt, the right temperature, and make sure it's not wet?
To you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Hollingsworth, well, certainly the secret is to get some dry weather. We had a long drawn out winter. People don't realize that we had several days of sub-zero temperatures, and we had a lot of frost heave, and it's still coming out, and it'll be coming out for the next while. What we do need is for it to stop snowing and cold nights and freezing, and so we can keep the temperatures above zero and hopefully get some of these patches done. But there's really no secret to it. And certainly, yes, if there's technology and something new out there, we're on it. We've brought new pieces of equipment. That's why we brought that recycler in for recycling asphalt. We were one of the first in Northern Ontario to actually do that. So we've been very successful with that. So we do look at technology. Unfortunately, there's some simple things that have to be done. We need to have good weather, and we have to have dry weather, and then we can get a real handle on the potholes, as we've done every other year.
Okay, thank you. And one last comment to Mr. Elliott, through you, Mayor. Don, thank you for all your work with us. And I do also wish you a happy retirement. And that's all. Thank you, your Mayor.
Okay, anybody else? Sorry, Councilor Nero, I had you down there. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Girardi, through you, Mr. Mayor. In the description, we have 5 different asphalts listed. What's the difference there? I mean, obviously the grades are different for different jobs.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Nero. That's absolutely correct. The HL3 is the one that we'd use the most. That's the one you'd see on your city streets. If you go to 2, it'd be going into shimming and going into driveways. So the larger the number, the coarser the material. But primarily, we would use HL3. So that's the one we'll do a lot of our pothole patching with.
The final pothole patching, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
When conditions are proper to fix them properly.
That's exactly right. We really do need to get some dry weather, more than one day.
So it's actually the weather, but not the type of asphalt that we're using in the interim, or we just can't get HL3 when we really want it.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councilor Nero, yes, you're correct in that the plants aren't operating right now. But the recycled asphalt, the hot asphalt we're making with our recycler works very, very well. The thing that we have to use early in the season which doesn't work so well is when you get the cold patch, and it's just a cold patch tar. Now, the biggest problem again is you're getting a lot of water. And as much as you try and keep the water out of the hole and out of the the water's still seeping in, and they don't get a chance to dry up enough to bond. So if you don't get any bonding, the asphalt's still going to come out with every time a tire crosses it. So that's why you'll see us repeat and do potholes, and we're trying to keep them filled until we can get the first of all, until we can get drier weather, and that the hot asphalt that we put in will bond properly. So, but right now using our recycler, we're seeing improvements, and we're seeing a little bit of dry weather too. So that's helping out.
One more question, Mr. Mayor, if I may, through you. Mr. Girardi, my understanding is that your staff, you and your staff are looking at the newest pothole machine that I believe Sudbury is using, Thunder Bay is using. When it comes to using those machines, is there a different asphalt, or are they using the same types of asphalt that we already are using?
Through Mr. Councillor Nero, sorry. Yes, they're using the same asphalt. It's just a matter of how you're applying it. And we've been looking at this piece of equipment, and keep in mind the city, quite frankly, about 15 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, purchased it, and it was called the one arm patcher. And it's similar practices to the one that is now, but of course technology's changed a little. That one wasn't very successful. It was good in the in the rural areas. It wasn't good in within the city where there's a lot of traffic going over the potholes. It just couldn't compress them and leave a good finished product. So we are keeping an eye on this new piece of equipment, and of course it's a substantial cost. I think it's close to $500,000. So we're taking a look at how successful it is. We've been chatting with Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay has one now too, and there's been a significant amount of maintenance to the piece of equipment. So we want to make sure if we're purchasing something that it's operating more than it's down. So right now we're on a wait and see, and if it proves itself down the road, certainly we'd be interested in purchasing, and hope council will support it.
One final question, Mr. Mayor. Now, Mr. Girardi, when we're looking at the wait and see on how this machine, if it's successful or not, is the wait and see actually the application of the asphalt to repair the pothole and its ability to stay in the pothole longer, or is it the cost effectiveness of that job?
To Councilor, I think it has to be a combination of the both. I mean, you need to purchase a piece of equipment that's going to be cost effective, yet give you a good finished product. We don't know. I mean, as far as the finished product is concerned, we're still unsure how good that is, because it hasn't proven itself at least long enough for us to, and we haven't had enough dialogue with our counterparts to know, how well it's doing. Certainly Sudbury is using it this year, so we're counting on them to keep us informed on the piece of equipment. But you're spending a lot of money, so it's got to be able to do the job for the right price, but it has to give you a good quality finished job too.
Thank you, Mr. Girardi. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Anybody else on the actual substance of the report, which is the tender of the asphalt contract? Anybody? Yes, so nobody else in that respect. I appreciate why there's a lot of discussion about this, and why you're taking the opportunity to pivot from a tender report to all the potholes we're currently dealing with in our city. So I will say this on that topic, because I do think it's a topic that a number of people are concerned about, and have reached out to a number of you on, is that our roads are old. So this has really nothing to do with what we might have done last year or the year before. It has something to do with long-term planning and budgeting properly. Our roads are very old. There were a lot of years where the budget was zeroed out and we didn't increase the budget to put more money into our roads. And there's lots of years where we didn't give additional funds to improve the roads when it was asked for by staff. So if you want to fix the roads and you want to improve the roads, you got to really focus on what you're budgeting at budget time. And I'll commend this group, because we have allocated more resources to that. I think we've got over 2 million additional funds for this budget year. And I think the hope was that do the same thing for the following 2 budget years, because there's some funds that were made available by the federal government that we were taking advantage of there. So, you know, we will continue to have lots of potholes for years to come because of decisions of, you know, that were made years ago. And the only real way to address that is to you know, increase the roads budget. And we'll never be able to increase it to the degree that it would need based on the age of our roads. But we can focus on that. Future council terms, if council chooses to. In any event, if we keep on seeing the weather we're seeing, you're going to keep on seeing the potholes that you're seeing.